Thank you. I thought of talking on this topic as since many decades, many people disguising as noble Babas or noble Gurus or noble Sadgurus or noble Maulvis are fooling the society as they can easily take advantage of a lot many people as majority of humans do not have good intelligence, thus cannot perform critical reasoning of right and wrong and ultimately become followers of those that provide them some sort of guidance because society is changing rapidly, this life is getting complicated, thus we humans need directions, and also it helps humans to get some sort of validation, due to which a lot of pseudo gurus have a cult like following. Great Buddha told that life is full of suffering, so we all are here to suffer. So pseudo spiritual people clearly know that majority are suffering and many amongst them cannot handle emotional setbacks, and to grow their pseudo spiritual business they spread their pseudo spiritual ideologies to different states. They are not interested in helping anyone come out of suffering, unlike something great Buddha did, but their main intention is to keep people remain hooked to them and grow their disciples so that their following grows. They know that a lot of people in the world are in vulnerable positions due to health problems or job problems or financial problems or problems caused by spouse or other family members. Let me share some examples so that you will understand how substantial it is to contemplate this topic. I knew a woman that wanted to marry me. However, I was in a phase of life in which I was too keen for a doctorate in psychology, so I was in no position to accept her marriage proposal. Also, she was too pretty then, so at times I found her daunting when she wore too heavy cosmetics, so I never even asked her to wait for a few more years for me. As per therapist Kimberly Resnick Anderson, women are socially conditioned to deal with no in a more internal way. They get ghosted or blown off and are merely likely than a man to take it personally. They could assume that they did something wrong. So my refusal to marry her made her disconsolate, and as she was an impatient person, she instantly got married to someone else without any analysis to heal her broken heart. Unfortunately, she had got married to someone that was too much like her. Both have a violent temperament. I mean that both are short tempered and get agitated on petty problems. This resulted in frequent violence in her marriage as both found it difficult to handle their aggression. The woman was fed up of daily hostility and went to many pseudo gurus for help as she had a belief that with a guru's blessing her life will become better. Some pseudo gurus advised her to beget a child as they felt that once the couple will become a parent, they both will change for the good and will become less unfriendly to each other and will have more reasons to love each other for the sake of the child. In India and in many Asian nations, it is a common notion that events like marriage or childbirth can fix many problems, as they believe that such events happen due to God's grace, and once God's grace falls on anyone, then automatically his or her life gets better. The woman did exactly whatever many pseudo gurus had recommended her and ultimately gave birth to a child. Nevertheless, hostility did not discontinue, and regrettably, the child became a part of the persistent violence. This made her visit some other pseudo gurus. Instead of seeking help from an intelligent psychoanalyst like me, she felt that I am the one responsible for her tremendous tensions and travails. Some pseudo gurus falsely analyzed her past birth with their so called intuition or sixth sense. They told her that her suffering is primarily due to her past birth karmas. In her past birth, she had harassed her current husband, so in this very birth, her husband is harassing her, and to get free from her past birth sins, she must duly accept her husband's unrealistic demands or expectations and fulfill them without any reluctance. And if she will remain docile to her hostile husband, she will become free from her past birth sins and will eventually acquire salvation or nirvana or moksha. Babas and gurus do not know that women, when they suffer or struggle, they internalize more than men and become passive to their problems as they consider it their fate and become more fatalistic for them. I find this path birth concept ludicrous. Philosophies like past birth karma is not universal, but astrologers or babas or gurus use it whenever they find it difficult to guide, or when their predictions fail, or when they want to act hypothetical or confuse clients with some fairy tale and give false hopes or false validation. Those that strongly believe that every human on earth had a past human birth, in my opinion, are people with low IQ. I request them to introspect the fact that during 1950s, world population was roughly 2.5 billion, and now in 2020, after 70 years, it has become roughly 8 billion. That's more than triple. Thus, if we consider average global lifespan to be 70 years, then by 2020 from 1950, that's average lifespan. Thus, not all living humans can have a past birth. Thus, astrologers, or babas, or gurus talking about past birth is an absolute tall tale. Returning to that woman's case that has been suffering domestic violence from her husband since she got married, babas or gurus, instead of criticizing the man for being volatile or short tempered, found faults in the woman. This is probably because of a man's biases for other men. Minds of these fraud babas or fraud gurus are too deeply rooted with their biases, due to which they fail to understand a woman's pain and problems properly. They even question the character of those women that desert their husband for husband being harsh or hostile. If a husband is harsh or hostile, then it is totally incorrect to argue that it is correct and an act of excellence or moral for a woman to remain wedded to him, and an act of sin to desert him. In fact, these concepts of moral and sin are themselves erroneous. Some shrewd men in the existing male dominated society have intentionally created such misconceptions which seek to enslave women merely for fulfilling their own vested interest. It is in fact the foremost solemn duty of every man to keep his wife happy and to treat her with due respect and honor. If a man disregards his responsibilities and hurts or harms or harasses his wife at the slightest provocation, or hits her under the influence of alcohol or drugs, then continuing to cohabit with such a man would not be an act of moral for a wife, but will only be an act of sin, as by living with such a husband she is hindering her growth and development, and we are here to develop and grow to become a better version rather than to remain attached to a deadly and miserable spouse. Rather, it is an act of great moral or virtue to desert such an unworthy spouse and marry someone else. Nevertheless, many women are compelled to remain with the harmful husband as they feel that they will not be able to have to be financially independent if they will live alone, or care too much about the negative talks that society will do about her and her parents. They care too much about their family's reputation, thus continue to be a slave to such harmful husband throughout their life. A similar misconception exists in the field of spirituality. Under the influence of superstitions and traditions, it is wrongly and foolishly believed by common people that it is an act of sin to desert a Baba or Guru and accept another one in his position, and doing that would result in great and terrible catastrophes. and disaster befalling a person in his life. This concept is totally false, and in fact, it is essential to desert from any guru that does not impart the right knowledge and promotes ignorance. Many may know about a popular Indian Baba named Swami Om who teaches people pseudo spirituality. One of his victims is actress Anam Khan. Swami Om found Anam Khan emotionally vulnerable and made her follow the path of sensuality instead of path of spirituality to uplift her. Many Babas and Gurus feel that sensuality can alleviate suffering. It cannot be denied that many have alleviated their suffering through sensuality. Nevertheless, through true spirituality too, suffering can be alleviated. And the best thing about true spirituality is that, unlike sensuality that can become addictive or make a person dependent on others or cause attachments, in true spirituality, a person becomes independent and frees self from attachments. Then there are some smart Babas that invite a lot of people to a hall to meet them. Those that wish to meet that Baba are then told to pay some thousands of rupees. Eventually, more than 300 people get to meet that Baba and share their problems within a few statements, to which that Baba states simple remedies like to distribute samosas or kachoris, and many follow it religiously. Let us understand this, that out of 300 people, that is, there is always a possibility that some 100 people's problems could get solved after some days, irrespective of them distributing any samosa or sweet. Nonetheless, plenty of Indians are too superstitious and they feel that their problem got solved due to distributing some eatery, and as India is a populated nation, even if 100 people believe this, they will spread this notion to others, and uh, others will get fooled by this Baba, and this Baba will become a cult. But this has nothing to do with true spirituality. Then there are some female gurus that want men to throw money on them and lift them to get success. Despite many criticizing such performances as fraud women disguising as gurus and considering it a disgrace and such performances being subject to travesty, still some ignorant wealthy men continue to blow money on such fraud women and lift them to get success and invite them on their wedding to get blessing. We must understand that various activities are being carried out nowadays under the name and garb of spirituality and not true spirituality at all. In reality, many of them are meant to fetch penny and pleasure. Majority of people are too insecure and live with a lot of fear despite possessing many amenities, and many that do not possess the comforts or do not possess a luxurious life are fed up with the trials and tribulations and frustrations that they encounter in life. Distress and ongoing struggle can make even intelligent people vulnerable to superstition, so to ward off any future or current difficulties and dangers, they get ready to do anything as recommended by any fraud guru. However, such activities are in no way related to true spirituality and are in fact worldly activities being carried out under the guise of spirituality. So called Babas and Gurus that prescribe such activities are also to be found everywhere. Ultimately, these people, after spending a lot of money and time and other resources to enhance their life with the prescriptions of Babas and Gurus, when they fail, they realize that the support and help of such so called Babas and Gurus is totally useless. But they but then it is too late. Some fools stop trusting spirituality instead of understanding that true spirituality is not this, rather, they got fooled by some fraud Babas or Gurus. There is a lot of naivety, foolishness, and blind faith in this field, leaving aside a few honorable exceptions. The heads of majority of religious sects are wittingly or unwittingly contributing to increase the blind faith and ignorance of their followers instead of being instrumental to reduce it. Majority of people think that spirituality, as taught by these pseudo babas or pseudo gurus, is the best panacea to all the problems. However, it cannot be overlooked that India, despite being the most spiritual nation in the world, stands number 2 in AIDS, number 1 in blood pressure related problems, number 1 in cancer, number 1 in diabetes. More than 500 people die daily due to diarrhea, which can be easily prevented. A lot of people living in villages have to travel miles to get a basic amenity like water. Some may say that India has so many problems because India became independent only 7 decades ago. However, many countries got independence after India, like Malaysia got independence in August 1957. That's 10 years after India. Singapore got independence in August 1965. That's 18 years after India. Despite this, they are doing better than India. A small country like South Korea is also doing better than India, that got liberated just around when India got independence. A small country like Japan, despite suffering two nuclear bomb attacks, frequent earthquakes are common, is still doing better than India. What's astonishing is that Japan, rarely possessing petrol reserves, has maximum number of car manufacturing companies. Despite agriculture being a major profession, India was ranked 94 out of 117 nations in 2020 Global Hunger Index, even behind the countries that were once a part of India like Bangladesh and Pakistan. A majority of Indian cities have plenty of migrant workers that lost their jobs due to a virus that came from Wuhan. These migrant workers did not have food for survival. Despite knowing how grim situation for these migrant workers, rarely any wealthy temple in cities of India took inspiration from gurudwaras to feed the poor for free. I do not understand and do not even want to understand what type of spirituality is this that cannot make the people preaching spirituality be sensitive to the poor that just want something basic for their survival. In the 2020 World Happiness Index by United Nations, India ranked 144, whereas Pakistan, that got separated from India, ranked better than India, ranking 66. During winter, India's capital Delhi ranks amongst the top 10 polluted cities in the world. So we have to understand the spiritual rites and rituals that majority of Indians follow, unless rectified, cannot fix India's problems. It is substantial to understand this because the world is designed to change, and change is the only thing that has and will remain constant. So, as the world changes, we must change our response by discarding non scientific spiritual rites and rituals and following the scientific ones will help Indians to free from temperaments such as aggression, envy, gluttony, greed, lust, pride, sloth, and have virtues like charity, compassion, gratitude, humility, patience, respect, sobriety. Most of these Babas or Gurus, with honorable exceptions, do not even have any understanding of the essence of spirituality. But the irony is that a number of devotees religiously and wholeheartedly consider such pseudo gurus as great gurus and continue to treat them so till the very end just because of their external appearance, manner of dressing. People wearing white or saffron or black dresses or keeping long matted hair or long beard or applying stripes of ashes on their forehead and body are generally considered to be great Babas or Gurus. Unfortunately, their loyalty is based more on fear rather than on knowledge or truth. Such devotees harbor many imaginary fears. For example, they fear that if they forsake one guru and accept another instead, they might become sinners or might have to face difficulties and hardships. In fact, these so called gurus themselves are responsible for creating false fears in the minds of devotees. As a consequence, these devotees are denied guidance of a true guru and fail to conquer suffering, fail to have a balanced state of mind, fail to have equanimity, fail to have good health. We must understand that action is more substantial than appearance, that includes manner of dress. In reality, we must realize that there exists no relationship between true spirituality and external appearance. Nevertheless, my statements do not imply that some of those who wear saffron clothes or have long matted hair or beards are not true Babas or Gurus. The significance of true Guru in anyone's life cannot be contested. Anyone that helps to eradicate ignorance can be a Guru despite not wearing white or saffron clothes. Regrettably, despite educational standards being so high, highly educated people fail to distinguish between a true guru and a fraud guru. The lesser we talk about less educated people, the better. Even educated people feel that if a guru will place his hand on the head of any of their disciple, then the disciple will attain success or nirvana or ultimate bliss. It is due to the prevalence of this silly misconception that many well educated seekers too get caught in the web of godmen and are ultimately completely fooled and their lives are ruined. Had something like this been possible, then Lord Krishna would have just placed his hand on every soldier on his side in Kurukshetra battle, and no soldier on his side would have suffered demise. It is indeed true that some Babas or Gurus have the power of keeping hand on the head of their disciple and bringing about a trance-like state for some time. However, it should be clear that a trance-like state for some time cannot liberate from day-to-day struggle or cannot free from ignorance or provide nirvana. These fraud gurus are dangerous. They rewire their followers' ideologies with fairy tales and false hopes. They grow their network. They make some of their disciples lie about getting some miraculous remedies and how those miraculous remedies make them wealthy. So, when someone tells you that they have some shortcuts for success or shortcuts to eradicate struggles, just run, because those solutions or mantras will not be worthy, because you are just a vulnerable person to them whom they want to fool and extract money, as some of the Babas or Gurus are extremely unethical, as in many nations there are no rules and regulations for Babas and Gurus, and they have enough financial capacity to hire top advocates for their protection, and you, being a common person, won't be able to do much to prevent any type of interaction with them in the first place. Thank you so much for making to this end. If you liked what I said, then please show it by hitting the like button and subscribe to my channel, as I will upload more talks on such topics. Also, if time permits you, then please listen to my other talks. I wish you have a wonderful day and stay safe.